Football season is upon us, and the Oregon State Beavers just a few short days away from a trip to Minnesota against the Golden Gophers, trying to rebound from a 2-10 campaign. A guy that's going to be a key piece to the Beavs getting more wins, Daryl Garrettson, under center for Oregon State. We'll discuss that and a whole lot more. Lindsey Schnell, James Dockery join us. Talkin Beavers starts right now. The first football show of the season here on CSN is Talkin Beavers, and thank you for being with us here. Alongside me are Lindsey Schnell and former Beaver James Dockery, making your television debut.
Yes, I am.
I would just like to take credit for this right here, Dusty. 5-6 years ago, when I was working at the Oregonian and covering James Dockery, he was my favorite go-to quote. And I told him at the end of as his career was concluding at Oregon State, you should really think about going on to TV. And now I get to sit next to him.
Yeah,
so you're welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I asked Lindsey to take it easy on me today, so I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing him and also being here as well, Lindsey.
Thanks, Dusty.
You're looking super tan.
Thank you.
Right now.
I appreciate that acknowledgement.
That's how you're spending your off season right now. And James, coaching after NFL, you're coaching at Westview High School now, right?
Yes, I am. Wildcats. I left practice a little bit early today, so sorry for that, guys. But I'm here with you guys, and those guys are working hard, and look forward to winning some games with them.
Perfect. Let's talk about how the Beavs are going to win some games. Head coach Gary Anderson, year 2 for Oregon State. Here's what he did at Utah State and Wisconsin in his first couple of seasons. You look at it, not too many more wins in year 2 from year 1. It's years 3 and 4 at Utah State that really stick out.
Yeah, you know, when he took this job at Oregon State, a lot of people talked about, including Gary, that he had been through this rebuilding process before at Utah State, and he saw a lot of similarities within the city, within the town, with the community. So I think that's huge. When you look at Wisconsin, really important to remember he was not winning with his recruits. But Doc, I think that every time I'm around Gary Anderson, the more convinced I am he is the right person for this job.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate this year and a little bit of last year to spend a lot of time with Coach Anderson, especially being a Raleigh guy myself. But I love Coach Anderson. He's a very straight shooter, very disciplined defensive coordinator first, and which I really love that. So I'm ecstatic that he's here. I'm thankful that he came here to take on this project, and I don't think there's really a better guy for it, you know, out there in the country that has the mentality to come here and win.
You know, it is interesting, though, that you sit there and it's almost as if Gary Anderson would rather have the cupboard bare so he could restock it himself than have to have a full cupboard like he had at Wisconsin. It was almost like the challenge wasn't enough for him at Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think what's hard is that he came into Oregon State and the cupboard wasn't bare, but he wanted to run a completely different system, and there wasn't like a gradual ease into that. You know, it was like, boom, we're flipping to a new page. And that was big because guys had to learn something that they were not recruited to play in.
Exactly. It couldn't have been more opposite. You know, Riley was a traditional pro-style offense. We come in here with Coach Anderson, spreading it out, adding a little tempo. I mean, that's night and day. But I think in year 2, we should expect to see a little bit of improvement.
Well, you're also going to see a new defensive coordinator, and Lindsey got a chance to catch up with the new defensive coordinator, Kevin Clune. Why make the move to Oregon State in the middle of a rebuild?
There's a couple of reasons. You know, first is to come with Coach Anderson and you know, come to a program that may be down right now but has potential to be picked up. And then the second is all the improvements and all the things that are going on here. You know, this is a great time to be at Oregon State because there are so many improvements with the building, with the facilities, with everything.
So when you watched film of other schools, this is a conference that's known for explosive offenses. Why do you think that you can have a successful defense in this conference? And what does it take to slow offenses in this conference? Is that a thing?
Yeah. You know, we'll see. But I've played against a number of the teams already. You know, last year I saw 2 of the offenses that we'll see. Year before that I saw Colorado, and so I have a little bit of familiarity with it. But it's going to come down to just fundamentals: playing the line of scrimmage, playing your gaps, playing tough defense up front and in back. You know, everyone doing their job in back, everyone playing as a cohesive unit, you know, being able to play man coverage and win your one-on-one battles, play with lights out effort, and, you know, put all those things together. I feel that we can be successful.
What did you know about Oregon State history, community, athletic department before you got here? Much? How'd you do your research?
Yeah, very little, and it's been all brand new, but, you know, and so I've known very little. I've known, you know, Coach Erickson a little bit, and then we've talked some stories through that.
But he loved this place.
Yeah, and he had a great time. He's you know, he's a great guy, and he always talks well about Oregon State. But it's all been brand new, and that's been great. But at the same time, it's also, I felt like I'm coming home, because a lot of the guys that I've already coached with are here, and I know the philosophies, I know the things. So I'm coming to work. It's not brand new. It's Corvallis may be brand new, and I'm having a great time learning about Corvallis and learning about Oregon. But the coming to work, we're not having to have those introductory conversations. We're ready to hit the ground running.
All right, it's time now for the Les Schwab Quick Fix. Les Schwab doing the right thing since 1952. You look at those numbers, and Bee fans don't like to see those 11s, but if there is a bright note, it is that number 12 was the Oregon Ducks, right?
Yes, although let's mention that the Ducks, I think, won 9 games last year, 8 or 9 games. So I appreciate your positive spin. But look, the positive thing, there's nowhere to go but up.
Doc,
theoretically.
You've gone through. Right, theoretically, right? In theory. Kevin Clune comes in. This is the second changeover for these guys in as many years. Their third coach in 3 years for some of these guys. You had a position coach change, Nigel Burton to Keith Hayward. What was that like for you as far as expectations and everything that goes into having a new coach?
I think initially that's a little bit hard on the kids, because you go from expecting what one coach wants to transitioning to another, and it could be a totally 180 in what he's actually expecting out of his players, whether it be from scheme or just how to conduct yourself on a day-to-day. However, from what I learned in college and going to the NFL, is that as long as a player you know your alignment, your assignment, and your technique, no matter who walks through the door, you have a chance to play for them.
I think a big thing is they have really different personalities, Kalani Sitake and Kevin Clune, and recruiting-wise, it's going to be interesting to see how things play out, because Sitake is one of the best young recruiters in college football, especially within the Polynesian community, and pretty easygoing, really fun. Clune's a little more serious, buttoned up. I don't know that you'd want to get on his bad side.
Yeah, I don't think you would, but I think early on as a coach coming into a new program, you got to kind of have that stern presence just to gain the respect of the guys and kind of lay that foundation to let guys know, hey, don't take me lightly. I don't know who was here before, what type of games you guys played, or how your culture was, but this is what I want, this is what I expect, and if you want to play on Saturdays, let's get with the program.
The guys that can't take any plays off defensive linemen now that Gary Anderson's their position coach.
Ooh, no kidding.
If you want to see more about the Beavs and everything else, check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/CSNNW for all your Northwest sports. News stories up right now. New Blazers center Festus Ezeli out 6 weeks after a knee injection, and the rest of the world catching up to Team USA. Later in the show, that man right there, number 10, Daryl Garrettson, what the offense will look like with him under center or behind center, and who's going to help that guy out? Number 34, Ryan Nall. He became the workhorse late in the year. Who's emerging to take carries? Well, we know Ryan Nall is going to be the starting running back, but who's going to step up behind him is the question heading into fall camp, and these two have emerged. Tim Cook, Artavis Pierce, one a redshirt freshman, one a senior transfer. Lindsay, what do we know about these two guys heading in here? We didn't know anything about them really, except for one was here and hurt, and the other...
Well, I'm not sure that we really know much now, except that they need to help immediately, especially with Tim Cook. He got injured last year. He was on campus. Look, usually, Doc, you know this. You played with a lot of JUCO guys. It takes a lot of them a year to figure it out. He doesn't have that grace period because he's not sure yet if he can get, I think, what would be a 6th year. He'll find out at the end of the season. So he's got to come in, guns a-blazing, ready to take some carries and get into the end zone.
Right, and you can look at that a couple different ways. One way saying that he doesn't have enough time to get prepared, or the other way saying, hey, the coach is going to keep it simple. He's a big physical style running back, and if a guy has backed up in a corner with 1 year to run for his life depending on it to get a chance to play, I would like to put my money on that guy. He's
6'1", 233. When Damian Haskins was initially recruited to Oregon State under the old staff, they were really excited because he was a different type of back than they were used to. They weren't used to a big guy, but that's the type of player you see in the SEC, especially. Tim Cook has that same build. They need that, especially now that Haskins is gone.
And we're in an interesting spot where you got a senior transfer like this. How many, in your experience, James, how many guys have just been able to come on campus 1 year to prove something and they can pop like a Tim Cook is going to be asked to do?
I haven't really seen it too much, from my experience, but I think a guy like Coy Francis, when he came over out of junior college, he was able to contribute as a corner with Keenan Lewis and Brandon Hughes right away. I think Clinton Polk was able to have a couple of 100-yard games out of JC. Joey LaRock and Dorian Smith also were some guys that ring a bell that made the transition in the same year from JC to the D1 level.
He just said, I can't think of anyone, and then listed like 12 people. Also, wasn't Kyle Pecco just a one-year guy last year? The defensive numbers might not have reflected him making a big impact, but he was really important to them.
On an NFL roster right now. And all of his guys defensive too, right?
Well, I was going to say Shane Morales too. Shane Morales.
Yeah, he's got one. And one guy that is moving from quarterback to wide receiver, and actually kind of a utility player, is going to be Seth Collins. Do you expect him to maybe get some carries in the backfield this year? Because, you know, with those two guys, Ryan Nall, this is your utility back.
Look, Seth has to be able to do everything. And last year, he was their best playmaker, but he couldn't move the chains consistently. So now, Doc, I think he's in a much better position. You know, I maintain that he's got to stop hurtling into the end zone before he breaks his neck. But I think that he can do a lot of things with the ball in his hands. You get him in space. Like, he's explosive.
It's funny you say that about the jumping thing, because I've got a chance to be around Seth a little bit, and I always tell him, like, man, you got to stay on the ground. But he's always like, looks at me crazy, like, Doc, I'm just trying to make plays. And I can understand that, you know, Seth is just a guy where he has to get touches. I don't think he has a position. You know, you could categorize him in NFL as athlete. Just get him the ball, offensive weapons. And I think that's what he'll bring to the table. Unfortunately, he won't be wearing number 4 this year, but I look for Seth to do a lot of big things.
You know, does that say something about him, just kind of the person that he is that, you know, because of playing time, you understand why kids want to transfer. But he decided to come back, and Coach Anderson said, okay, you can do it. Even though he had to earn his way back on, he still had to do it.
Oh, I think it says a lot about him. Look, it's hard to say, it's easy to say, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm better than this. And then go away and think, oh gosh, I want to go back. And for guys to accept you back, to kind of humble yourself in front of your teammates, I think is huge. And Anderson kept a relationship with him the whole time, but I've been really impressed by Seth's maturity.
Yeah, it showed a lot of maturity for him just to evaluate the situation and understand that, hey, these are the guys I came in with. I want to win games with these guys. And also, you know, big credit to Coach Anderson for understanding that, hey, coaches change positions all the time. So if a player has not made up his mind, you can't hold that against him.
Well, Seth Collins may not be the quarterback. We'll talk about the guy who is going to be the quarterback, Daryl Garrettson. What to expect? Is this offense going to change with number 10 behind center for the Beavs?
People thinking he's going to be the guy come September 1st. Garrettson going downfield. He's got a man, and it's complete touchdown for the offense.
And that's what Beaver fans want to see.
Over the middle, Garrettson, and it's
What a
complete
play.
to Togiai. Garrettson flushed out toward the back of the end zone. It's complete. Daryl Garrettson was never afraid of the moment.
It's a pretty glowing review of the Beavs' new quarterback right there. You know, you hear out of Corvallis, whatever it is, Daryl Garrettson has it. How different is this offense going to be with him under center this year?
I think it goes a long way to say that he's been with Coach Anderson and he's been with our, you know, the offensive staff. He knows the plays, he knows the terminology, and obviously he has that moxie, and I think the guys are feeding off of that, and that goes a lot when you're expecting that guy to get the call from the sideline and get you lined up and get you ready to go.
Look, his teammates like him a lot. I think that matters a lot, especially late game situations. I think all the time about former quarterback Lyle Moival. Not the most talented, but guys would have walked through fire for him, and having that and your leader is huge.
Well, yeah, and you could see that at times last year, and it's Seth Collins, Marcus McMaryion, they were thrown into a fire. They knew it, right? Nick Mitchell, they weren't ready for that moment, and you saw in critical moments that it happened. You got the feeling during the spring game, and you hear the comments during training camp that there's trust.
Oh, yeah, and they've had so much time to develop chemistry with their receivers. That's huge. You know, Garrettson is like best friends with that whole receiving core. That's going to go a long way. And he understands the offense, too. He knows what they're running. You know, it's going to be a completely different. He has a level of comfort within that.
Yeah, the receivers are definitely smart for being best friends with the quarterback. That's something that all young receivers should take note of. But, yeah, I think having experience at quarterback is invaluable. Any head coach that's trying to win ball games know the guy that's taking the ball the most times, you know, throughout the game should have a lot of experience. And I think, you know, Daryl having some experience in this system should help a lot.
Our own Nigel Burton got a chance to catch up with Daryl this offseason and take a listen for yourself on what that it factor is.
Camp is going right now. What are you guys working on the most? We're here in the weight room. What is the thing that you guys are working on most right now in camp?
Right now in camp, we're just working on our operation as an offense, getting our schemes down and really playing at a pace that we want to play at, we want to dictate. So once we get that done, I think we'll be all right.
You didn't get a chance to play last year, but what skills do you bring to the table that Beaver fans can look forward to seeing from you this season?
What I bring to the table, I just bring a lot of leadership, experience that I've gained over when I was at Utah State. just being a guy that guys can look to in crunch times and kind of look at as a relaxing presence and calm everyone down. And hey, it's still a game. We still gotta execute no matter what the situation is.
Well, you mentioned last year you set out. There was a little bit of a QB carousel between Nick Mitchell, Seth Collins, Marcus McMaryion. You're watching. Now Nick's gone. Seth left, came back. Marcus is still there. You're there. And now obviously a true freshman coming in. How has the dynamic of the quarterback room changed? What's different about it now versus last season?
You know, we're a room. It's not a separated room. We're a tight-knit group. We're guys that like being around each other. There's no hostility in the room. Guys get along with each other, and sometimes that's hard to have when there's one guy playing that position on game day. You know, it's hard to not have animosity in the room. So I think just being able to have guys in a room where we want each other to exceed as well as ourselves.
Every team has a goal. Players have their own individual goals. What is your personal team goal for this team in 2016?
My personal team goal is for us to win 8 games. You know, that'd be ideal. That'd be great. And to push guys to do that and to buy in and to, you know, get them to believe that too. And that's the one thing you got to get guys to do is just believe. And once you get that belief in everyone else, then guys start to play like they can win, like they will win. And once that happens, that's hard. It's hard to beat.
You know, I have long said the one-year transfer rule is dumb. You have to sit out a year. Could it be the best thing that happened to this Beavers offense that Darryl Gerritsen got to know everybody in that year?
Yeah, I don't think that anyone had expectations of them like setting the Pac-12 on fire last season. So I think that it was good for him. I think he had time to really learn the offense, spend a lot of time talking with Anderson, getting used to everyone, because now there's not going to be hiccups going in. I don't think the problems will be with him in the offense.
Yeah, most of the time quarterbacks are your unofficial leaders. So for him to come from a different school and be elected captain in his first year, just speaks of that it factor that he has. And I think anytime you're going into a battle, you want to have that chemistry and that off-the-field rapport with the guys, so you feel a little bit more comfortable that on Saturday, through the thick and thin, we know what guy we have under center.
The other thing about him, and Beaver fans will learn this as they spend some time around the team, you meet him and he's kind of unassuming, kind of quiet, a little bit shorter than you're anticipating in person. But like Doc said, he's got moxie. There's something about him that you just think, okay, yeah, I know why guys want to go to war with him.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of Lyle Moival from that aspect, just like you mentioned, just a guy that, hey, he might not have the biggest arm, be the tallest or the fastest, but something about that guy tells me that we can win games with him, and I like it.
You mentioned that did stick out to me. I was surprised he wasn't towering over Coach Burton.
When I met him, I was like, "You're the quarterback?"
That's just rude right there, huh?
He laughed. He took it in stride.
We got more to come here on Talkin Beavs. We got a game ball to give out, huh? How about the Wilson Motor game ball of the week? Yeah, we're giving those out even though games haven't even been played yet. We got a lot of football to get to here on CSN this fall. This is the first of all 7 of those shows going off every single week. Beef fans, you can go ahead and take heed to the top row and the very bottom row. Don't worry about that middle row. Unless you like to hate watch things, I guess, for some Beavs, which is very easy to do at times. Let's give our game ball away. It's time for the Wilson Motors game ball. We don't have game balls to give out because no games have been played. Let's give out our sleepers of the season that we're looking forward to, the guys who are going to step up and make an impact. Lindsay?
Okay, you're never going to have heard of this person. Doc's going to have, because he's studied the roster clearly. How about Shamar Smith, true freshman, enrolled in January, from Miami, linebacker, 6'2", 210 is what he came in at. I'm guessing he's a little bit heavier right now. There's not an updated weight on the website. Look, this kid has to contribute right away. He was only a 2-star, but he had offers from Texas, Louisville, and Pitt. Those teams know how to play defense. I think that this kid could do a lot. He's going to have to do a lot, even if he's not a starter, maybe not a backup, but when he gets the chance, he has to do something.
You know, and the interesting part about that Florida pipeline that they were growing, instantly paying dividends. Art Pierce And
Isn't Sabby Pescatelli one of the favorite Beavers in history from Florida?
And Everson Bernard.
Yep. What could have been if Giovanni Bernard had come to Oregon State? I think about that often. Doc, who you got?
Well, for my biggest sleeper, I have Treston Deku. You know, that guy, he's just a big, long corner on the outside. And I think for a Pac-12 defense to really have a legit chance at being a dominant unit, you got to have a big body corner out there that can match up with these 6'5", 6'3", you know, the whole gamut in the Pac-12. Every week there's somebody that's potentially an NFL caliber receiver. So I like the strides that he made. I like that he can play the ball. And again, just with his length and ability to disrupt timing, that goes a mile.
We both picked defensive players, so we are expecting big steps forward from the defense this year.
Well, and I think that's pretty fair because the offense should be good this year. They should take strides. We know where all the improvements are because that's what everybody's been talking about all year.
I completely agree. You know, I think there's a lot going on with the offense, you know, but I am expecting a lot from their receiving core too. But defensively, like, you know, in Minnesota, kicks off in like 10-ish days, I think. They need to play a full game. Kalani Sitake talked about that all the time last season. They never played 4 full quarters.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just to give a little bit of love to the offense, I think Victor Bolden, this would be a good year for him to get back on track because I think last year with the coaching change, that affected Victor more than any other player on the roster. You know, under Riley's scheme, shorter receivers thrived. You know, for him to come and find a new niche under this new coaching staff, I think it was a hard adjustment for him, but he's put in a lot of work. I've seen him in the offseason. It looks a lot thicker and more durable, so I'm expecting big things from Vic.
Well, the season is just around the corner, huh? Minnesota just next week. Doc, great job on the first show.
I know.
You were right.
He's good.
10% of your paycheck goes to Lindsay Chanel.
We could work something out one day.
We'll be back next week and all season long, every week during football season. It's Talkin Beavers on CSN.